Good afternoon. My name is Brett Robertson. I'll be presenting Chapter 9 Portfolio Assessments for What Teachers Need to Know in conjunction with James McMicken for EDS 8846. The learning outcomes for this chapter include describe the relationship between measurements and instruction and identify the 7-step process teachers use to install portfolio assessments in their classrooms. Assessment shall be a part of instruction, not a part from it. The outline for this chapter is as follows. What is a portfolio assessment? Classroom versus large-scale applications. Key ingredients. Purpose of portfolios. Work sample selections. Appraising portfolios. Pros and cons. And what do teachers need to know? So what is a portfolio assessment? Portfolio assessment is a systematic collection of students' work, updated as achievement and skills grow amongst the students. Retrieval new to education, but widely used in other fields. In many other fields, it's the primary method by which certain professionals display their skills and accomplishments. For example, photography, artists, journalists, models, architects, all use this particular method. No longer limited to paper-based format, but can transition to a paper to electronic based platform. It can also be an alternative to standardized testing. Portfolio assessments also allow teachers the autonomy to choose particular assignments or artifacts to reflect student achievement throughout the learning process. Portfolio assessments versus standardized testing practices. For portfolio assessments, one of the most intriguing aspects of this approach is that it engages students in the assessing of their own progress, and basically they are allowed to establish their own learning goals. That's a huge plus to the portfolio assessments and utilization in the classroom. These portfolio assessments also, when integrated correctly into the classroom, have been used with great success in the measurement of students with severe disabilities and improvement of their achievements. Classroom applications of portfolio assessments. Ideally, the portfolio is a central focus of instruction, so students are able to assess their own learning with teacher input. Portfolio assessments should be used by teachers and as an integral aspect of the instructional process. Contrast earlier versions with later versions, similar to what you would see on a pre-test versus post-test, and are able to discern students' growth and accomplishment based on that assessment. Portfolio assessments provide that same avenue. Strengthens relationship between instruction and assessments. Portfolios have significant diagnostic values, and the effective instruction should result in discernible improvement. If an effective instruction is being provided, there should be a discernible improvement in the student's aptitude over the course of the semester. Using classroom portfolio examples in your actual classroom. Elementary students keep 3 portfolios, 1 for each subject. In a high school setting, I prefer to use the portfolio method in just one particular class. It streamlines the process and makes it easier to fully implement the portfolio assessments effectively. Students include dates, earlier and revised works in their portfolios. Students meet with the teacher 3 times, a grading period for 15 minutes to evaluate their work. This is where you integrate that relationship building process among students and teachers. At the end of the year, students select products that represent their best version and indicate how the final products were created, and indicate their growth and achievement throughout the semester and where they have improvements. Self-evaluation and portfolios. Students' self-appraisal skills are enhanced through this portfolio assessment use. Portfolios provide far more feedback than report cards could ever do. Students' self-evaluation skills are nurtured throughout the entire process and the school year. This is a big factor for me personally in teaching in a non-traditional classroom setting where the students were provided the curriculum through an online-based platform. The self-evaluation aspect is greatly reduced or limited in this approach. Implementing portfolios can help increase students' evaluation of their performance in the class. Working portfolios are ongoing reviews and frequently preferable to showcase the portfolios themselves. Comparing earlier work to later work can be illuminating. Student self-evaluation is one of the most critical aspects to this approach and to improve their further growth. Large-scale applications. Several states and large school districts have implemented this process previously, a key component of their accountability programs. The results are not very encouraging though. Portfolios judged by teachers often result in bias and are unreliable. When used in accountability programs, teachers usually tend to, either subconsciously or consciously, mark students higher due to their effect it has on their teaching profession. When trying to implement this process and utilizing trained scores, it can be an expensive proposition to get that accomplished and is not really effective. Independent evaluators, like Vermont for example, have found evidence of considerable unreliability when evaluating the students' work, due to the fact that students submit different assignments and due to the fact that teachers grade differently. Classroom portfolios, 7 key ingredients. Make sure your students own their portfolios is one of the most important aspects of this process. It must be perceived as collections of their work, not just items that they throw randomly into a folder. When implementing this process, it's very important to involve the students in the decision-making process of what should be included in the portfolios, and this helps obtain student buy-in into the portfolio assessment process. Classroom portfolios, 7 key ingredients. Continued. Collect and store work samples. Students decide what the teacher input and what to collect. Students collect and store them themselves. This collection process can be a paper version or scanned copies of the student's work, then can be implemented into an electronic database to reduce possibility of losing their work later on. Selected criteria by which to evaluate work, best if determined by teachers and students collaborating together, must be clearly described for self-evaluation to be successful. Classroom portfolios key ingredients. Step number 5, students should evaluate products continually. They can be evaluated holistically and or analytically, or a combination of both can facilitate by incorporating index cards, for example, where the students self-evaluate their performance on a particular assignment, which they identified their own individual strengths and weaknesses of the given product. Schedule and conduct portfolio conferences. Conversations is essential to the effectiveness of this implementation of the portfolio assessments. Also, it's very important to allow students to prepare for these conferences beforehand, and also this is another way just to build the teacher-student relationship. And the final ingredient for the integration of classroom portfolios involves parents in the process. Communication is a vital component, not only with the students but also the parents as well. The more active parents become in the reviewing their child's work, the stronger the message will be that portfolio activities are a worthwhile endeavor. In some instances, portfolio assessments may or may not be as effective for earlier grade students due to the lack of developmental delay to fully assess their own work and their own abilities and to truly self-evaluate. In many cases, portfolio assessments have worked wonderful in high school and middle school courses.